Now I want to talk about a more advanced method of laying out your page, and this method is responsive, which means that it is going to go very easily from a computer screen to a tablet to a phone. And we kind of introduced this a little bit earlier when I talked about the grid model, or to think about the grid model when you're laying out your page, but we didn't really talk about it, how it actually applies. So let's do that. So I am going to go ahead and I need to define my site because my previous Dreamweaver I was using in the earlier one was not my CC, or I couldn't find it. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new site. And point to that demo folder on my desktop that I did before. Because remember, always remember that the most important thing that you can do in Dreamweaver is laying out your site. That's always the very first thing you need to do. Okay, so here I am. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say File New, and I'm going to take a fluid grid layout. And I'm going to go ahead and keep these models here. You'll see how this works here shortly. It's asking me to name my style sheet that goes with that, so I'll go ahead and call that. Then if I want to make any pages, once I get this and I make it my template or whatever I want to do, I can go ahead and point any other pages to this exact same CSS, and we're set. Okay, so here let me go actually just into design view so you can see what's going on here. This you can see right now is my phone layout, so I have 4 columns. My tablet layout now, and I have 8 columns. And my computer layout, I have 12. So let's go back into split. And the contents of this particular one that says class fluid, I don't actually need that. I can delete that. I do need to keep this grid container because everything needs to stay within that grid container. And I don't need to go and do that here. Okay. Now inside of here I could just lay out divs if I wanted to, just plain old div. Just like I did in the earlier sample. And it knew to close that for me. And I could say div nav and everything that I wanted to, but I'm going to use the more modern methodology now, which is the HTML5 method. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm in my insert menu, and again this is Dreamweaver CC. So if you are using just plain Dreamweaver 6, just make div classes. They actually kind of work pretty much the same way. But since I'm in Dreamweaver CC, I'm going to go ahead and use this insert structure. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a header. And I can call this page head. Class is fine. And I want to have this, keep this insert as a fluid element. And then my page had a nav section at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I'm going to call this page nav. Again, there's nothing magical about the names. So you can see it went ahead and put this page nav, and it's keeping it fluid. The other cool thing to notice is that it's giving me 2 classes in a row here. Okay, then I had another class. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this in order, making sure I'm clicking. I had a section, which I could call my article, or I could call a section. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put that in. I'm going to call it page main, because that was where my main contents are going to go. And then I had a footer. So if I go ahead and design, you can see here, this looks like it's outside, my page foot looks like it's outside of my view, so I'm going to, yep, my footer got outside of that contents of that float, so I'm going to delete it. Make sure I'm in the right place here, because I don't want it to be, you can see here that it's outside of the container. I don't want that, so I'm going to go ahead and say footer, click. And there we go, now it's contained within. So now I can go ahead and I can, if I wish, inside of my clear fix here, notice I went up here to Windows and I opened up my Cascading Style Sheet Designer. So my Cascading Style Sheet is here. So now I can go ahead and I can start tinkering with things, the Cascading Style Sheet elements inside of this. Or I can actually go directly to here, and you can see that it already set up any information that I need here. I set up my categories. But for grid container, I want to put my background. The other thing I want to point out before I even do that is that, look, this is media only screen and it has a minimum width. So this is for my computer monitor. This is for tablet. See tablet layout here. This is for phones. So I actually, looking at this, I know that I actually want this to be in all of these. I want my background to always be this way. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to put it up top. And now, if we take a look at this in here, I'm just agreeing with all these things here. Let's try that one more time. There, so you can't really see I have everything written in black and what have you, but you can see that my graphic now is in the back. So let's talk about why is this responsive cool. Now, obviously, I can go in, before we talk about why responsive is cool, you can go in and you can add your paddings and your margins and whatever, what have you, by selecting these containers here, going over to your cascading style sheets, and hit this layout, for instance, of that. And you can go in and add your margins and your padding and what have you. It's all grayed out because I'm in here. I want to go into my source code. That is why. Even though it's grayed out, it still lets me click on things and then change it. The other cool thing about this, and see, it gave me my margins and paddings. Here's my nav bar, and I can go in and give this margins and paddings too. Let's say, I'm going to go in layout. You can see it has all of these things that we need to put it in a position. Margins, paddings, float, what have you. I'm going to click on my footer, give that some padding or margins. You give everything even 15 pixels from the left hand side. Even let's go in and give it 15 pixels from the right. And click on this, tell it what color I want the text to be and things like that. Let's see. Color. White is actually FFF. If I want to, I can actually go into my CSS and actually declare that everywhere. Okay, so you can kind of see how this is going to work. Now, why is this cool? Because right now, if you just look at this, I'm going to save it. Open Firefox again. Save, yes. And so that's really not all that cool. So why is that even interesting? Well, let's go into, right now I want to see some different layouts. So let's go into design mode, and let's say for tablet. Well, now what I can start doing is I can start clicking on these things. I can resize my nav. Let's say for the tablet I want it to be over here. I want my nav bar to be that big, and I want my page section. So I know nav bar is 2, so I'm going to cut 2 off of this. And now I'm going to tell this to move up a row. So now these things are next to each other for tablet view. And as soon as I put content in here, this will start filling. I'm trying to change my content. I think it's easier to do that in code. Okay, and say I want to be in phone. So I want them then again to be all on top of each other. So when I go to tablet, it's going to be like this. When I go to computer, it's going to be like that. So this is very cool, this view that you have going on here. And now I can go ahead and start changing my content. I can throw in, if I need to throw them in, I can put actually divs within these things. If I wanted a logo div, insert image. So that goes right in there. Let's take a design view, and there's my logo. So that is very cool, and you can see how these things are going to work, but you still need to use some of the same types of things that you did before with your floating, your padding, your margins, but this is just the more modern way now to actually lay out a page.